Hooray, okay, hello. Did I have a clicker? It doesn't matter if I don't. That's fine. I'll do it anyway. Oh, it's gone on. Okay, well, okay. Well, we'll go on then. Okay, so I'm going to try and go quicker than I normally would just because I'm standing, well, I know there's somebody after me, but I'm standing between people and lunch, which I hate. So as you've just heard, I'm a senior cloud security advocate at Microsoft. I actually only got this job about a month or two ago, so I'm still new, but I've been doing a lot of talking and talking to people for a long time. So I live in Seattle. I'm definitely a crazy dog woman. There are all my dogs. Like now the proportion of dogs to people in my house is insane. Like it's me and 3 dogs, so I've definitely gone over the threshold as being crazy, but at least it's not cats, and I'm not offending anyone who has cats. Cats are cool too, but I like dogs. I used to be a cloud security and a network and a VoIP engineer, so I used to, a long time ago, I used to actually rack servers. I also was really good at installing Cisco phones. It's definitely a Stockholm Syndrome thing. I'm very fond of them still, though nobody uses them anymore. So you want to talk about Cisco Call Manager at any point, let me know, because I'm still very fond of it. I love talking about how we can secure all the things. Security is really important. I mean, Look, we've already had people on stage this morning talk about this, but security is really important. And sadly, whether you are you have security in your title and that's your main job, the fact is you need to care about security because that is just the way of the world. But what I am also very big on is making security easy to understand. Something I really hate is the security people who just stand in their little ivory tower and say, nope, you can't do this, nope, and I can't explain this to you because you are too, this is too hard. This is making security inaccessible. It's something I really hate. So that's why I try and talk about it, because I think everybody can understand security. Everyone in the world, it just depends how it is explained to you. I'm a prolific user of GIFs or GIFs. Not going there, in memes in my presentations. If I run out of GIFs or GIFs and memes, I just usually put pictures of my dogs in because, let's be honest, they're pretty cute. I mean, I'm biased, but hey. So what am I going to talk about? I'm going to talk about, that's not my dog, by the way, but that one lives in Melbourne. So I'm going to talk about security operations. Now, as I was saying, if you're not, the chances are, I would say most people in this room, security operations is not your main job. And that's fine, but I want to talk about why it's important and why you should care, even if you don't work in security operations, a little bit about the who, the what, the how, and the when, and then very quickly I'm going to talk about use cases. Some of this stuff, by the way, I will finish this off with a nice slide with a call to action for things that I think generally folks should know, particularly if you're developing in cloud native, but this is important stuff, it's security. So, firstly, why should I, as a person, care about security operations? I've just put a couple of, I just grabbed some of the first ones, security things that have been going on recently. You'll like the anti-vax dating website. This was literally last week. You may or may not be aware there is an anti-vax dating website called Unjected, where you can date and get mRNA-free semen, great. Sorry, it's just so weird, I couldn't not put it in the talk. And so they had a dating website. So of course, there's a lot of personal information in a dating website, as you would expect. And someone took over their entire platform because the admin dashboard had basically no authentication. So it was very bad. Feel free, you should go read up on that one if you want. That's terrible. It's obviously terrible security practice, but it's also a massive breach of personal information as well. Well, if you're on that website or if you signed up for it, you probably want to go have a look at that. We may all remember, probably everybody in here remembers Log4j. That was just before Christmas. That ruined a lot of people's just running up to Christmas time. Log4j was quite, the problem was it was one of those very little applications or things that was used that people had forgotten was there. And I know that one of the major headaches was trying to work out, well, a lot of organizations were like, do we even have this in our environment? We don't even know. again, gave security operations people a massive headache. It was an extremely bad vulnerability, that one. For those of you who aren't in the know, most security vulnerabilities are scored by something called the CVSS scale. It goes from 0 to 10. So 0 obviously being nothing, 10 being the worst it could be. This was like, what was it, 9? It was a 10 or a 9.5, which is really bad. You don't see them that high very often at all. So again, massive headache for people. And then of course, we've always got, like, let's look at more cloud native specific ones, you know, Kubernetes, there was a new container escape vulnerability. This was just a couple of months ago. You know, these things happen all the time, and they will continue to happen because we write applications, we write code, and people make mistakes in them, and then they are found later. You may also remember there was an Exchange, and I've completely forgotten its name. There was quite a nasty Exchange vulnerability last year. It was so bad that Microsoft was issuing patches for versions of Exchange that were like out of support by like 5, 10 years. That's how bad we considered it to be. That's public information, by the way. I'm not telling you anything secret. So the fact is that, as most of you, I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir here, if you attach your stuff to the internet, you need to care. Just because I love this stuff, this comes from Microsoft's Security Threat Intel. We do a lot of our own research on this stuff, pay a lot of smart people to do it, not me. But attack surfaces are really, really cheap. They are ridiculously accessible nowadays. You can see, I won't read them all out. These prices are in US dollars, but you know, you can DDoS someone for like a month for only $700. Nice. The weirdest one on here, like I said, I won't read them all out because of time, but the strangest one on here to me is the ransomware one. So, ransomware, you can go on the dark web, somewhere dodgy like that, and you can pay $66 up front to buy a ransomware kit, and you can go do your own ransomware. Or you can, and this is a very strange thing to say, you can essentially do ransomware as a service. And you can get someone, I'm not even joking, you can get someone on the dark web, say to them, go and ransomware this person, this organization, and then when they have successfully ransomwared them, and that person pays the ransom, by the way, don't ever pay the ransom, but if they pay up, they clip the ticket and take 30% of the profit. This is legitimately a thing. Like, I am not kidding. I also happen to know that in New Zealand specifically, the New Zealand CERT, the cybersecurity folks, the emergency response team, I know they get a lot of calls about teenagers DDoSing each other. Usually, I'm not joking, again, not kidding, for online gaming. So you can go, so if you're playing your friend at Fortnite and they keep beating you, you just go DDoS them and then you can win. And so, you can go and get these very basic DDoSing services for like $1 or something. I mean, the stuff up here is kind of a little bit more hardcore, but think about it, right? If teenagers can go and buy a DDoS attack for $1 to go and kill, you know, to go and get their Fortnite, to go and like get rid of their rivals at Fortnite or whatever they're playing. Like, think of what someone who's quite serious can do. So, you know, it's ridiculous how accessible these attack services are. We talk a lot about 0 days. That's the only other one I'll call out here. Now, 0 days are the ones that people are often very scared about because, oh, it's a 0 day. It's a brand new vulnerability. We don't know how, you know, there's no patch, there's no mitigation. What do we do? The fact is that 0 days are very expensive to develop. It's not that you shouldn't be concerned about them, but the reality is that all these other attacks are much easier to do, much more accessible, and they're really the ones you should really be focusing on protecting yourself against from a security operations point of view. Going on, again, if you've ever worked in security operations or had anything to do with it, some of this stuff, these aren't new problems. Security operations, we have a lot of issues, and they're issues that have been around for a long time. That products don't talk to each other. Love it. Love a bit of nothing talks to each other. We don't have enough SOC analysts. It's a very specialist job. We know there's a security skills gap anyway, but particularly in security operations, which it's really, really bad. Environments are getting more complex. People keep adding things and changing things, and we don't have all that logging. And most SOCs depend on manual, time-consuming processes. I can tell you a story that You may or may not know, Microsoft has a team called DART. DART are the detection and response team. We call them the team in Microsoft you never want to meet. Not because they're not lovely people, but because they come in when customers have breaches. And so you're having a really bad day if you meet DART. Anyway, the DART team have some amazing stories. Some of them I can tell, some of them I can't. But I was talking to one of my colleagues there, and he was saying that they had a customer who was so overwhelmed with their alerts that basically they had a P0, P1, P2, P3, and they got to the point, I'm condensing the story, that they only looked at P0s. Now, you don't need to know much about operations to know that's not a good state to be in. And that's usually because they have too many alerts, and there's too much noise, and it's difficult. So these are problems that we have. And then we talk about the single pane of glass. Now, I hate that phrase because, it's ideally you want to get there. It's really hard. I'd like to say maybe a few panes of glass in a window is the way we should aim for. But of course, we try and get to as few panes of glass as we can. But if you're looking through lots of different things, it's hard. And then finally, of course, we have silos. I love this. Dragon, Defender. Basically, what we've done traditionally in the past is that every application, every part of the business would log to its own little place. So you'd have your identity logs, you'd have your endpoint logs, you'd have your application logs. But now attackers, and I have a sticker that says this, feel free to come find me at the end, that says, that's out of scope, said no attacker ever. Because attackers are not going to be like, oh, we're only going to go for the identity. We're not going to go through the rest of the environment. And the fact is, if you need to see someone traversing your environment, you need to see all these logs. But traditionally, we don't always do that very well. And so the silos make it really difficult for us to see what's going on and also deal with it. Because say, hands up, is anyone does anyone actually do you actually go talk to your security operations people if you're developing something about where you put the logs, and if you put the logs anywhere? Probably not as many people as I would hope, but this is exactly my point. There was a few hands there, good for you people. But of course, and also as well though, traditionally, probably you were just like, it's security's problem, they'll deal with it. And of course, going into the DevSecOps, where we're giving some more autonomy to developers, this is the kind of thing you need to think about. But why should you care if you are not security? If you are a dev, isn't this their problem? Kind of, yeah. You're like, cool story, Sarah, but why should I care? Because I develop applications, that's security's issue. Yes. You are right to a point. Now, we've already had talks this morning about DevOps and DevSecOps. DevSecOps isn't going away. And help security help you? Because it's a very difficult thing. And for someone who works in a technical field, I spend a lot of time talking about people's feelings. But the fact is that security traditionally never wanted to trust anybody, right? We wanted to say, no, we're going to check everything that you do. And now in DevSecOps and doing agile and doing incremental things, the idea is that security give you a bit more autonomy and you have some guardrails. But if you don't give security a reason to trust you, there's a kind of chicken and egg thing here. It's like, does security trust developers, or do developers have to show them that security should trust them? It's a very, I don't have a straight answer, but if you come and collaborate with security, I think it's the way forward. I'm encouraging security to talk more to devs and devs to talk more to security, because this is what we want to be like. Yes, and I know this is not the traditional thing at all. I know it's not. But the fact is the way we're going, trying to do agile, trying to do DevSecOps, we really need to be facilitating better discussions with devs and security. I am not one of these security people who thinks that devs can't do security. I just think that traditionally, developers haven't had to think about it because it was something that security did. Can you do it? 100%. And I'm not saying I'm going to I'm also not saying that, by the way, I'm not saying that security is going to make you do their job, but the collaboration is important. Anyway, like I said, I'm going at speed. But how do we do this? There's another choice that needs to be made here around, probably more for your security team, but it's good to be aware of it. How are you going to do your SecOps? Are you going to do cloud only? Are you going to do hybrid, where you have some on cloud and some on-prem? Or are you just going to do on-prem? Generally, what we see, unless you're a very new business that was born in the cloud, you'll probably be doing a mixture of these. But as a dev, you probably just want to understand what tools there are there. So, hopefully, your organization has a SIEM. If you're not familiar with the acronym, SIEM is Security, Information, and Event Management. So you have things like, in Microsoft, we have Sentinel. You've got things like Splunk and ArcSight. They can be on-prem, and they can be in the cloud. That's the thing you want to send logs to. Again, you need to find out where yours is and where you can send those logs to. Ideally, if you're doing cloud native, I would hope you're doing it in the cloud, but it's always worth checking. And what? So here's the thing. You need to collect logs from the entire application stack, not just your infrastructure, not just the orchestrator, not just the pods, not just the application, kind of the whole thing. It's important because, as I was saying, attackers do not just go through one of these things. So, and if you're developing an application, please make sure you make logs. I have genuinely seen an application where they just went into, they went nowhere. They did get generated, but they went nowhere. They were stored nowhere, and they just disappeared. And even the best SecOps person can't help you there. Like, we really can't. So please generate those logs if you have control of that. But then who? We also talk about what are the tools and the vendors that can help. Like, I'm not here to talk about, this is not the day I'm talking about paid versus open source tools. I'm not going there. But these are the kind of security tools that you might need. Again, I've already talked about SIEM. You may need vulnerability scanning, runtime security. Go and talk to your security team about what tools they have and what they think your application might need. Again, I'm not telling you to go do this. I'm telling you to go and have the discussion with the security team, because it's likely you have a lot of these tools already and you just need to integrate them. And you really should. It's quite important. And then when? I don't know what, I love Pingu. Like, all the time, like this time, all the time. When do you need to do this? You need to do it all the time. Again, security operations should actually be iterated throughout your entire environment lifecycle. I've talked a lot about an application when it's running, but you should be doing this in your CI/CD. You should be validating things, as you can see here, from creation, storage, deployment, runtime, teardown. This should all be being logged, and it should be going somewhere, so your security folks can look at it. Last thing I'll talk about, I could talk about this for a long time, so I've literally done one slide for this exact reason. The top security operations hack in the world is knowing use cases. Now, what I mean by a use case is a situation that's important. So say you're running a payroll system, okay? So payroll's quite important to, I'd say, pretty much every organization. And of course, if someone breached payroll, that could be a very big problem. If someone goes and pays themselves a lot of money, you could lose money. Reputationally, it's bad. You're definitely going to upset your employees if you don't pay them, and things like that. So in terms of a security operations use case, what that would be was we'd say, hey, we can't have payroll breached, or we can't have someone escalating their privileges to pay themselves $1 million. Now that is a security operations use case. Then what we say is, hey, right, in order to detect that, what logs would we need? And then we say, okay, we know which logs we need. We need, say, let's say it's SAP. We'll take SAP, and we'll take our identity logs, and for the login, and we need to put those in our theme. And then we write a detection rule based on that use case. Now, I'm not expecting, unless you do work in a SOC, I'm not expecting you to write those use cases, and go in and configure the tool, but knowing the kind of thing that could potentially go wrong with your application from a security perspective and articulating that to SecOps is really important. And of course, when you're designing things, you need to know as well, so you can create these kind of logs. Now, it's really easy for me to stand up here and talk about use cases. Use cases take a long time to develop. It should primarily be your security operations team who drive this, but please help them understand what your application or your infrastructure could possibly do so they can help create these use cases to pick up on them. It's not enough people do it. It's really, really important. And again, I as I said, it can be really difficult, and it requires collaboration. I'm just going to say collaboration a lot today. But use cases are so important, especially as well if you're using a cloud-based SIEM when you're collecting logs. Usually they're charged on like an ingestion basis. So, you know, you get charged $1 per gig or whatever, which means the more logs you put in it, the more money it costs. So often this also helps you justify why you need those logs putting into your SIEM and why the cost is, you know, the cost is justified. Traditionally, what we did on premise was you would have your on-premise SIEM, it would have a fixed capacity, and you'd pay a licensing fee, and so you would throw as many logs as you possibly could at it because that's how you got your money's worth. Nowadays, in the cloud, that doesn't work. You'll just end up with a massive bill, and I've seen it, and then management are asking, well, why are we spending this much money? Can you justify it? So, you know, that's why this stuff is important. I can't remember why I use this GIF. It makes no sense whatsoever to me now. You can tell, like, oh, yeah, it's true, but it's still, it is, yeah, I know. It was me trying to be funny, but it's not amazing. Let's be honest, this is poor. I probably should have replaced this with a dog. Anyway, I'm determined to finish on time. I said I promised I wouldn't go over. So to conclude, obviously nothing is fine. This is how fine things are in security. You know, there's always stuff going on. It's a never-ending process, as we know. Security is never complete. You can never just get there. It's iterative. Yeah, it's true. And you know, that's operations in general, I would say, not just security. But you know, it's a security talk. So I ran out of cool. So I put a picture of my dog because he's cute. He's actually a bit of an ass, but anyway, he's a Shiba. Look, if you're developing something, your app or your infrastructure, make sure it makes logs for important activities. You know, because if we don't make logs, we can't look at them. We can't see what's going on. Send those logs somewhere useful and central. So if you don't know where that is, go and ask your security operations team or your security team, where should I be sending this to? Don't send it into a black hole. Don't make a random new store that nobody knows about, because that also is not helpful. You know, like I said, talk to your security operations team about what they need to monitor. If you have some ideas of the things that could be abused, tell them. And if you do have use cases, share them with SecOps, because that helps them do their job as well. And ultimately, this makes everything more secure. And like I said, we need to work more closely. The one that is me kind of done. It was like short and sweet. I'll be hanging around for a bit. I also have stickers, so come and find me. The last thing I wanted to show you, though, if I can find it now, just to illustrate my point, and this only happened a few days ago, so I didn't quite get the chance to put it in my talk, but this is, let me see if I can get this. So remember, attackers choose the path of least resistance. This is my dog, because I left the bottom latch undone. There, that was him like 48 hours ago. He's a little sneaky. But the point is, I'll show you again. Like he found the gap. He found my mistake, which was not latching the bottom. And attackers look for the gaps. So we have to try and work collaboratively together to stop that happening. By the way, just so you know, he did it again later on in the day, which the dog camera didn't catch. He went out through the top. I don't even know how he did that, but I'm going to stop my dog now. There you go. So thank you very much. Have a great rest of your day. I've got 1 minute to go, so I can say I finished early. And thanks very much.